Well, welcome back again, and here we are back in Revelation chapter 5, in verses 7 to 10, and this is what they say. He went and took the scroll from the right hand of him who sat on the throne. And when he had taken it, the 4 living creatures and the 24 elders fell down before the Lamb. Each one had a harp, and they were holding golden bowls full of incense, which are the prayers of God's people. And they sang a new song, saying, "You are worthy to take the scroll and to open its seals, because you were slain, and with your blood you purchased for God people from every tribe and language and people and nation. You have made them to be a kingdom and priests to serve our God, and they will reign on the earth." So Jesus, who is worthy to take the scroll and to open its seals, comes to God on the throne and takes that scroll, and then there is an utter explosion of prayer and praise and worship. Here is Jesus, finally one who is able to take the scroll and is worthy to work out God's purposes in history by opening the seals and the scroll. And so with rejoicing, all heaven explodes to worship him. Jesus is worthy to bring God's salvation purposes into being. The living creatures fall down, and the 24 elders fall down before the Lamb that was slain. And they bring their musical instruments, and they hold the prayers of God's people before the Lamb, and they sing a new song. And it's a song of triumph, and a song of worship, and a song of declaration. And again, our attention is turned to the reason for the Lamb, Jesus, being worthy to take the scroll and to open its seals. It's precisely because he went through suffering and death in order to reign victorious over all sin and over all death and over all evil. This is a song that celebrates the cross and Jesus the Christ. They sing that the Lamb, Jesus, was slain so that God's purposes could be worked out in human history. And what are those purposes? They are ultimately to bring people of every tribe and nation and language together to be his people. We rightly strive and pray and work for unity across the nations and peoples today, and we should be concerned about the trend of churches increasingly gathering in monochrome, in only one nation or ethnicity or tribe. Because the proper display of the reign of Jesus is the wonderful multi-ethnic, multinational, multicoloured wonder of the gathered people of God to praise and to worship the Lamb who was slain and yet reigns supreme. This is what it will be like when God's purposes are finally fulfilled. In the meantime, there may well be suffering. There may well be challenge. In the meantime, the victory that was won on the cross, where the living creatures and the 24 elders recognize that Jesus' blood purchased people back from slavery to sin and death, will be proclaimed by God's people in the midst of challenging and suffering times. But the challenging and the suffering is not the end. Jesus' conquering of evil and sin and death and dying through suffering and dying himself doesn't lead only to a gathered people from all over the world, but these people are in the end given a job, a purpose. They are to be a kingdom and priests to serve God and reign over the whole of the earth. This is the calling for Christians everywhere now, to worship Jesus Christ as one people in Christ and to fulfill the mandate of being God's ambassadors, representatives, witnesses in exercising kingly rule with Christ, and to mediate between God and all of creation as priests in his service. What a wonder this is. We're called up to be one in Christ, to work with Christ, to accomplish God's purposes across the whole world. How this works out, as we will see as we carry on through Revelation, is going to be through suffering. We are also called to suffer like Jesus did. And it is only in this subversive way that Christ conquered over sin and death. And it's only in this subversive way that we, with Christ, will conquer across this world. So take heart. Suffering is not the end. It is the means by which Christ reigns. Justice is being slain on the cross as the Lamb was the means to his victory. And that, of course, leads to more worship. So don't miss the next video.